Yeesh, the adults are back in charge. Mordecai is back. Oh, like someone should make a video compilation. Well, someone who wants to risk their YouTube channel with all the hype from the mainstream media when Biden won, and then show them the results. You know, like for example, the latest one. That would be interesting. Like, what was it? The adults are back in charge. America is back. And then, like, show the gas shortages, show the trucker shortages, show the people protesting, like all of that. You know, like, just... I still can't believe what I'm seeing. Like, honestly, you would think this would be the scandal of the century, right? Like, you would think that in a democratic country, which America not only claims to be, but advocates itself as an example for other nations to be, right? So, like, America doesn't like countries that are democratic. But you would think that after the high level of incompetence, when accidentally they drone strike the wrong guy, assuming it's by accident, again, because there's two possibilities. Either people are incompetent on so many levels, or they're very competent but they're evil people. Like, which one is it? Which one is worse, right? So you have that. And again, like, this is not a new thing. President Obama also would sometimes, like, drone strike people that were collateral damage, you know, like weddings, funerals, you name it. But at least, like, the terrorist was there. Like, you'd read it in the news, and it's like, yeah, they did it. The terrorist was there, and, like, the people that were around him, unfortunate, but hey, collateral damage, America. Right? Like, at least that. But now that wasn't even the case. So you literally have, like, a case of murder. I don't know how to say it. Like, if a cop did that, if a police officer fires into a crowd and doesn't shoot the actual person, you get riots on the street. And rightfully so. But when it's the intelligence agencies which accidentally fires a drone strike into someone that's not even the target, no, that's fine. You know who's not fine? The person leaking the information. That's the one that gets 9 years. So, look. What I'm saying is that in any country that the government would give a shit about what the people think, like, A, it should be reviewed. Does the president have the ability to drone strike nations that aren't even at war with the United States? And without the approval of Congress. Like, because right now, according to American legislation, if someone wanted to, right, I'm just saying that, I'm not saying it would happen, but if someone wanted to, like, if a president is crazy enough, they could actually drone strike Germany, if they wanted to. The legal system is there, the framework is there, it's just that no one is crazy enough to do it, right? So, is that, like, a normal system? Is that a healthy system, where at the stroke of a pen, someone can do that? I don't like it. And I bet the American people don't like it. Like, if you actually go and you poll the American people, I don't think they like it. And secondly, the second question that is, like, where's the accountability? Okay, so when cops fuck up, they're held accountable. But when the intelligence agencies fuck up, it's the people that talk about it. Like, imagine this, just so you can imagine the system, right? You can have a person that sees a cop abusing his power, and the cop doesn't get punished, but the person talking about it gets punished. Like, this is literally the same thing. How is it different? Why is it different? Can anyone tell me? Unbelievable. I'm just... The fact that this isn't a scandal is unbelievable. Like, the fact that people can fuck up, that's not unbelievable. And to be honest, I kind of know why they fuck up. Because I have a feeling. I might be wrong on this, but I have a feeling. I think that is pretty much the same how it's like everywhere right now. And the corporate environment. Whether you're talking about hospitals, whether you're talking about, apparently, the intelligence agencies, it's a very hierarchical institution where the people who are in charge keep their head down and just do what they're told. So even if they notice that they're doing something bad, even if they notice that something doesn't add up, they don't speak. Because if they speak, they can get fired. And again, like, I've seen this happening in Romanian hospitals. I heard it's happening in German hospitals. I heard it's happening in American hospitals, like, everywhere. So you may have a person that thinks, okay, well, this protocol or this might be wrong, and I want to do it differently. Nope, you're not allowed. You're not allowed to even talk about it or mention it. You need to pretend like it didn't happen. It's discernible nuclear reactor on steroids right now. It's just the current culture. I guess it's also because social media, right? Because in the past, if you did something, only the people around you would know, and only if it got in the press, the public would know. But now if you do something because of social media, everyone knows. So I guess it creates this culture of fear and dread where people are just afraid to speak up even when they see something bad happening. And again, like, no one got fired for it. Like, this just blows my mind on so many levels. I'm not even going to say, oh, well, if Trump would have done it. You know, like, no. Like, if anyone would have done it, it should be a scandal. This is just not a left-wing, right-wing issue. Like, this is a human issue. I don't even know. My God, I just, whatever. Even if you think you're okay with it, you should ask, like, okay, but how incompetent are the people there? Just what is going on at the levels of establishment? All right, so chances are better than not that the drone pilot was actually aiming to dispose of yet another laptop full of pornography. They are everywhere. Yeah, I mean, you know, like that would make for a great movie. That would definitely sell. I mean, it's a story that's plausible. In fact, it's a story more plausible than the fact that literally everyone up the chain was an incompetent person. Like, no one up the chain managed to figure out the colossal fuck up that they're doing. Anyway, right, let's go back to This Week in Stupid. Let's talk about something else, because I'm pretty sure you guys don't want to hear me rant about the same issue over and over. But it really got me upset. I gotta say. Got me upset a little bit. Usually I don't get upset, but now it's just like, okay, zero accountability. That is just, wow. So all you have to do in order to be a sociopath is to become a bureaucrat. Like, when you're a bureaucrat, you can make decisions that harm people, that potentially can even harm tens of millions of people, and you get zero accountability. That is just mind-blowing. Okay, whatever. You know, fine. Also, if you guys can, please share this stream around. Please share it on your social media. Please share it on Twitter. I would appreciate it. Let's get more people in here, because I guarantee to you it's going to be fun. So, this is from The Guardian. This is recently. A juge, Monsieur Juge, from Michigan, couple must pay son $30,000 for throwing out his pornography collection. Tactical Droid, look at this, okay? This is important. So, the parents had no legal right to destroy the property. Now, can I read it? Okay, it allows me to read it. I'll tell you what happened, because this is a big loser. So, apparently, you know, when they say son, you're thinking about a kid. No, the guy was 43. So he was 43 years old and got a divorce. Now, after the divorce, I guess, like, he had to sell his house or something. I don't know what exactly happened, but he had to move in with his parents. Now, it's not really what you think. I mean, he wasn't sitting there for free. No, he was paying rent at his parents' house. And his parents, being tactical droids, being Mama and Papa Tactical Droid from the chat, if you guys know who I'm talking about, found his porn stash. Now, his porn stash, I guess, was a thing to behold, because it's worth $30,000. So, complete with various toys. Toys like the Star Wars Rey action figure. You know, like, if you buy a Star Wars Rey action figure, you're ashamed with it. Like, you're not going to show it to other people. So, I guess this is what the guy had. He had a hobby. He had particular delights that the parents did not consent. So, when the parents found it, they threw it away. Now, apparently, the man decided to sue. And yeah, he won. He won. Like, the parents now have to pay him $30,000. Good news for the parents, inflation is coming, so you may be able to pay that a little bit easier. But in his ruling, the judge said that he got to that they were ordered to pay $29,000 plus $14,000. Now, what's interesting, if you look at the lawsuit, is that the father wrote in an email, "Frankly, David, I did you a big favor getting rid of all this stuff." And the judge says there is no question that the destroyed property was David's property. Defendants repeatedly admitted that they destroyed his property. So apparently they said, "Oh, we're the landlord, so we have rights." No, like, if you're the landlord, you can't just go into the person's place and burn his shit down. Now, here's what's interesting, right? Like, and I think I can give you a little bit of a moral advice. How should I even? Okay, so parenting ends when the kid leaves your house. All right, like, if it's a 43-year-old man, the parenting is over. You can't expect that a 43-year-old man is going to be a child, even if you're his father or his mother. If the 43-year-old man has bizarre tendencies, you've already fucked up. Like, you should have gotten back in time and give a better education when he was a kid. You can't treat a grown-ass man, whether he is 43 or 25, okay? You can't treat him like a child anymore. So what you can do is you can give him advice, but you can't just forcefully change his lifestyle as if he was a kid. And if you do that, that person will hate you. It's the reality, all right? What are you disagreeing about, Tifik? I'm telling you the reality. If you try to force a grown-ass man to change by using these types of tactics, the grown-ass man will hate you. So you're not trying to change him. You're just trying to... Like, I think the parents probably hate themselves because this 43-year-old guy has the $30,000 porn collection. Okay? They view themselves as failures as parents. And what they're doing by doing this, they're sending a message that, you know, it's like, we know we can't change you, but we're doing the quote-unquote right thing. And the problem is, it's not the right thing. You can't change it anymore. Your job is done. It's finished. All right? It's like when you're at school, you finish the exam, pencils down, you got an F for being a parent. You can't take the exam again. There's nothing else you can do. It's like going now into the teacher's drawer to try to steal the exam paper. Hey, you can't. So there we go. $10 super chat. If they assassinated McAfee, what makes you think they wouldn't assassinate people who are too effective at stopping leftists? Oh yeah, there's another news where we're going to talk about it in a bit. There's this lady which accused Hillary Clinton, like the lady is part of the Me Too movement, and she accused Hillary Clinton of interesting things, and now she claims that people broke into her house and someone tried to ram her off the road. Just, you know, like interesting things that you notice in the press. But yeah, so I don't feel bad for what's happening here, right? Like, the guy is in the right to sue. The parents weren't in the right to do this. If the parents didn't like it, they could have said, "Hey, you know, if you don't get rid of it, we're kicking you out," or whatever. Like, this is not an excuse to commit a crime. Private property is private property. We're not communists, all right? On this channel, we don't advocate for Marxism. I'm sorry. Private property is the person's private property. We're not talking about a 15-year-old. If this was a 15-year-old, I would have agreed. I would have said, yes, the parents did the right thing. But it's not a 15-year-old. It's a 43-year-old man. So, pay up mommy and daddy, I guess. But it's interesting. Yeah, like someone said, you can buy a house in Romania with $30,000. Yeah, I mean, no, I'm not saying that the guy doesn't have a problem. I'm not saying that the guy doesn't have an issue. I'm not saying that this is normal. But what I am saying is that he is 43 years old. You can't change him. You need to accept the reality of the situation and just move on. So, I don't know. If people don't agree with my take, that's on them. I mean, if you are the parents, then you deserve to get sued. All right. What else can we talk about? This one was very interesting. It is something that I discussed on my main channel in a previous video. Apparently, Colbert, Trevor Noah, and other late-night TV hosts will sound the alarm over climate change. All right, so I guess climate change is now a funny subject it's something hilarious, right? Because they're bringing the comedians to discuss it. And I asked truckers in my chat to explain to me the problem with California. Like, why aren't there trucks in California? Because right now there's going to be a huge shortage in the United States because there's a record number of ships that are trying to deliver cargo into California, yeah? But there are trucks in order to take the materials and drive them to where they need. So now, record number, like, usually you do get in certain times of years, like a line of ships that are trying to get into port, but now it's just astonishingly high. So I was like, why aren't there truckers in California? Turns out that California has such strict regulations on what trucks you're allowed to use that you can't use like old trucks. It needs to be a truck that's at least 3 or 4 years old, like someone explained to me. And all of these random things that you have is exactly to fight against global warming. So you can't use like an old truck. You need to buy a new truck. It's very expensive. Usually, apparently, like the new trucks, they have onboard computers, so you can't repair them whatever you want. You have to repair them to an authorized place, and it's very expensive to repair them. And that's why there's a trucker shortage. It's not that, because this is something that blows my mind, especially when they talk about the United Kingdom. Like they keep saying, we don't have truckers, and it's because of Brexit. And I'm thinking, motherfucker, isn't the United Kingdom a country that has more than 50 million people? You're telling me that in 50 million people you can't find truckers? Like, why? Are all those people doctors? Are all those people rocket scientists? And they look down at the trucking profession? They look at it with disdain and disgust? Like, well, why can't you find truckers in the UK? And there's many reasons, apparently. Again, global warming, one of them, like certain trucks aren't being allowed to function. You have companies that don't want to train new truckers, like they're against training new truckers. You have the government making it very difficult to get a license to become a trucker. It's much more difficult to get a license to become a trucker now that it's the European Union. You have like all of these artificial barriers in place for safety, of course, which causes the problem. So no, it's not because of Brexit. Like I even reject the notion that the United Kingdom, a country with 50 million people, needs to import anything. Why do you need to import things? So you're making it very difficult in your country for people to get a license to truck, so that you have to now get it from outside in other countries that it's more easier to learn to truck. That is horseshit. And of course, you know, the corporations that are very greedy. Now, I kind of get what the corporations are saying. They're saying it's like, look, a young trucker, like if we train someone to truck, he's probably going to do an accident. He's probably going to do a car crash. And I kind of get it, because when you're an experienced driver, and especially like I'm doing driving school right now, very expensive shit. Hopefully I'll pass, because I'm sick and tired of just pouring money into my instructor. But the thing with driving is that, and I'm saying this for people who never drove a car before, is that you need to know how to see into the future. Like when you're driving the car, you're not really driving the car in the present. You're driving the car with one intersection in front, because you have to constantly look at what's going on and anticipate what other drivers are doing. And experienced drivers, they're like Jedis. They get to see shit into the future. They got like this premonition. So that's why they want experienced drivers, because an experienced driver is able to avoid a lot of car crashes. A new driver may not. And again, like if you're driving a truck that's got, let's say, $100,000 worth of merchandise, and you do an accident, wow, right? Like the insurance, my God. So that's why they don't want new. But tough shit, tough shit. Like why do you have these countries in the world that are rich nations, and all they're doing is they're being predatory on poorer nations? So why should the United Kingdom look towards Eastern Europe and go like, give us your truckers, give us your nurses, give us your doctors, give us your this, give us your that. Fucking train your own. And honestly, like this is the argument you can use against immigration from towards a left-leaning person, right? Because the left-leaning person cares about the marginalized, they care about the oppressed. Okay, so you think Eastern European is less privileged than the UK, and they will say yes. Okay, it's undeniable. But when you look at Eastern European and you say like, oh, give us your doctors, how the fuck is that not a modern version of colonialism? You're brain draining these nations. You're taking away their human capital. Heaven forbid my toilet actually clogs, because I don't have a plumber to call. There aren't any. They're all in the European Union right now, making more money there. Alright, anyway. It will be 100,000 if they're transporting toilet paper, yes. So anyway, like the comedians talking about climate change, instead of showing their pictures, why not show their cars? Just Google any of these comedians and see what cars they're driving and buy the same model as them. Oh, you can't afford it, can you? It's really the hypocrisy that bothers everyone when it comes to climate change. I mean, climate change literally fucks up your country economically so that more things go to China. Because that's the thing, if I'm a corporation and I have to stay in the European Union and you get all these regulations, you can just move over to China, and as long as you don't criticize the Chinese Communist Party, as long as you play ball and you're nice, they will cook you the books. And they will say, oh, so you slaughtered 1 million pigs and you went overboard when it comes to the carbon credits. Oh, that's fine. You know what? You didn't slaughter 1 million. Just give us a bribe and you slaughtered 500,000. How do I know this? Because we have communism here. That's how it works when you're in a dictatorship. When the government controls every institution, cooking the books has never been more easy. Like, who's going to hold the government accountable? The Free Chinese press? So this is nonsense. This is absolute horseshit. But it's not even that. It's like all the people advocating for environmentalism, they don't live the lifestyle. Look at Mormons. I don't agree with Mormons, many people don't, but at least they say, hey, we need to donate 10% of our wealth to the church, right? So that everyone can... They actually do that shit. They don't ask for you to do it. No, they do it. Vegans. They don't eat the hamburgers. Imagine a vegan that's found out that he's got stocks in 7 slaughterhouses. Because this is what we're talking about when we talk about the hypocrisy of the climate change alarmists. It's not that they're turning their AC on or they have a computer. No. It's the equivalent of a vegan owning 7 slaughterhouses. That's literally what is going on. And you're like, what the fuck? And by the way, like some people tell me, it's like, look, if you change your lifestyle, you're not going to fix the problem. So, for example, if you are a vegan, you're not going to change the situation. And I'm like, okay, man, fuck that shit, okay? People look at leaders. People look at examples. This used to be a thing, right? Like, lead by example. Like, if you are a vegan and you have a lifestyle that is wholesome and it's great and you're happy, other people will try to follow suit. Like, other people will do what you do. And it's a lot more effective than preaching at people. It's a lot more effective than, taking a prop that looks like a dead dog and barbecuing it in front of a meat grocery store, in front of a meat store. There are women that are very beautiful and they're vegan and they're forcing their boyfriends to be vegan. You can literally do that by leading by example. Leading by example is not a bad thing. The only people that argue against leading by example is because they know they can't live the life that they preach. So they need to be called out nonstop. If I see a doctor that tells me not to smoke while he's got a cigarette in his mouth, do you think I'll take him seriously? Like, maybe he's got a point, but like, fuck that dude. Give me a doctor that at least doesn't smoke. I know, Tactical Droid. I'm not gonna get to that. I was giving it as an example. Jesus Christ, you don't see the forest because of the trees. Anyway, right, so let's go to the next article. My God, we got so much to cover and so little time. I don't even think, like, look at how many articles I got. Look at, I don't even know if I can actually manage to go through all of them. So, yet again, inmates are being released from prison. I don't understand what the left obsession is with releasing inmates from prisons. Did you notice that? Like, what the fuck do they keep doing it? Is the crime rate level very low now? No, apparently it's not. But okay, you know, whatever. It's actually more socially damning in certain communities to be a racist than to be a murderer. Like, unironically. So, look at this. The Lynn County Correctional Facility said it is working to secure court orders to release a number of inmates currently serving time as the cases of COVID increase at the jail. Don't jails, by the way, like, isn't the lockdown supposed to isolate people? Can't you do that in jails? Like, can't you install air filters? Can't you make sure that the prisoners in jails are safe? So you're telling me they're more safe outside in the community than they're in a lockdown center? I don't know. I mean, okay, fine. I guess. Fuck do I know. Officials said there are currently 18 inmates who have tested positive for COVID. Their symptoms are being monitored and treated as needed. An additional 19 inmates are being quarantined after having the exposure. Officials said that these inmates it plans to release are housed in several dormitory-style cell blocks at the center and have tested negative. Officials are also said releasing some of them will allow for more separation between inmates under quarantine. The inmates that get released will be required to contact the sheriff's office within 48 hours to reschedule any remaining jail time. This is not fucking real. And it's not fucking real, not because the number of inmates that get released, because we don't know. I mean, the article doesn't mention if it's 10 or 1,000. I assume it's not a big number. But it's the fucking principle of the thing. What is this shit? It's like a vacation site? It's like, hey, you know, it's like a gym. Oh yeah, it's exactly like a gym. Not like Metacore, but like an actual gymnastic place, you know? Before the pandemic, me and my wife, we used to have a subscription at a gym, and it had a pool. So we would go there, we would benefit from the facilities, right? And when the pandemic came and the government locked everything up, the gym told us, look, we can't continue your subscription, but when the pandemic is over, phone us and we're going to work something out. It's literally the same shit here. It's like, yeah, so you need to contact the sheriff office to go back to the gym. You know, like when I see, from now on, if I'm ever going to get into a position where I get to hire people, when I see ex-convict, I will know that that is a pillar of trust and safety. I mean, how can you not trust a convict? Who would ever think that a convict could lie or not, you know, go to fucking hell? The left only selectively recognizes past events, so just because someone is in prison, it doesn't mean he is doing criminal acts in that moment. I mean, I guess you're right, but man, the idea of prison should be something that's a deterrent so that people don't commit crimes. I mean, the police can't stop all the crimes that are taking place. So you need a deterrent. Like, people, before committing a crime, should go like, holy shit, what if I get caught? I'm going to be sent to that nasty place. I'm going to be sent to the prison. That's how people should think. But when you look at the situation and you see it's like, okay, so this month, another 1,000 inmates released, another 1,000 released, another 1,000 released. Wait, look, there is this story of Vlad the Impaler from Romania. I'm pretty much sure like everyone knows about Dracula and whatnot. One of the things with Vlad the Impaler is that he would execute people for stealing. And that sounds very harsh right now. But if you actually read history, you get to understand why people not only supported him for doing it, but they considered him to be one of the heroes of Wallachia. So there was this, I guess, custom in Romania that every time a new voivod, so a new king, would ascend the throne, the jails would be open. So every single prisoner that was locked up would be allowed to go free, regardless of the crime. Now, during those times in Romania, there were a lot of corrupt nobles. There was a lot of people that didn't have the country's interest at heart. They would be more with the Ottoman Empire. They would ascend the throne, and they would try to get rich, and then they would abdicate. So it was a lot of political uncertainty. You would have a new voivod, a new king every 1 or 2 years. So constantly, professional muggers would be released, professional highwaymen, like professional thieves and murderers. And what ended up happening is that the crime level became so bad that in the market, people couldn't do business unless they had an armed guard. So if you wanted to be a merchant, you couldn't just be a merchant and sell whatever you have on your farm. No, you needed to have money to hire mercenaries in order to defend your stall in the market, because the guards were also corrupt. So only the rich were able to do business. The peasants became even more poor because they couldn't even sell the extra things they have, because they had to deal with constant thieves, with constant muggers, right? So you have now Vlad the Impaler going on the throne. And he realizes that this is a huge problem because all of the muggers and the thieves, they would operate with impunity because they knew if they go to jail, they're going to be released back out. So what he does is he actually sets this big feast in honor of him ascending the throne. So he has like this really big festivity with a lot of space, and a lot of people are invited there. He invites every single person that's poor. He invites every single beggar. He invites all of the people that were in the dungeons previously, right? He invites the underworld. And at the event, he goes around and he tells like the people that were there and weren't part of the targeted demographic, and the guards escort them out. After he escorts out all of the people that were deemed to be not part of the targeted demographic, he locks the doors, sets fire to the place, and has his riders circling around to shoot with arrows anyone that tries to escape. Now, a lot of people went like, okay, but why were the beggars also targeted? Well, it's a medieval society, rules were different, and according to Vlad the Impaler, he considered that a beggar is actually worse than a mugger, because with the mugger you can pull out your sword and defend yourself. With the beggar, he actually pulls your heartstrings and makes you feel fear the fires of damnation if you don't give him money. So, no, it was a different thing. But what happens after Vlad takes the throne? Oh, well, the economy goes up almost immediately, because now people weren't afraid to trade. Now there's markets. Now there's people from other nations coming into Moldavia to do trade. Now it was apparently such a golden era that people who would come from outside could leave their cart unattended in the middle of the street, and no one would touch a penny. No one would steal anything. And there's various stories, like it's kind of hard to tell what is fact from fiction when you're looking at medieval times. But there are like these stories where you have a merchant that didn't have a place, they didn't have a warehouse where to store his goods. So Vlad tells him, it's like, just leave them on the street, nothing will happen. And the merchant, obviously he listens because he doesn't have a choice. And the next day, his money was stolen. So the merchant goes upset towards Vlad and tells, it's like, hey, you told me to leave it unattended, but now the money is stolen. So Vlad sends his secret service, his guards, in order to find out who stole it. And eventually people talk, and they apprehend the thief, they impale him. And what Vlad does is, like, the merchant, let's say, had 1,000 gold. So he gives him back 1,001 gold. And the merchant starts counting them, and when he finds that there's one extra gold, he says, it's like, okay, these are mine, but I got like one extra gold here. And Vlad tells him, if you haven't said that, then we would have impaled you as well. Right? So that was like the kind of tactic that he would apply. And apparently it got so safe that there were tests that people would do, like they would leave a golden chalice on the village well, and you could find the same golden chalice 2 weeks later. No one would steal it. Now people say the death penalty doesn't work. Well, in medieval time, when you see people impaled, like a forest of corpses, as is described by the scholars, because you didn't get the name Vlad the Impaler for no reason, it did act like a little bit of a deterrent. I guess, I'm not advocating for it, by the way. I'm just reading you from the annals of history. Imagine just being bad at counting. Well, yeah, you say that, but back then a gold had a lot of value. Like there was no way you could properly count, especially when it came to gold. I mean, people probably counted it more than once. So I mean, a gold would be the equivalent of, I don't know, maybe $1,000 or something like that. It was very difficult not to miss, especially when you're a merchant and it's your profession to constantly count money. Alright, so this is something else that's interesting. Maybe I need to cover this in another video, but if you know anything about the Justice for J6 rally, right? So why is this a rally? Well, apparently, like, a lot of people got arrested on July the 6th, and they haven't been given the trial yet. So this is, as some argue, a human right abuse, right? Because it's a human right to get a fast and expedient trial. Like, we're already at the end of the year, and given the fact, the severity of the crime, you would expect that I would be trialed by now. And there's a lot of info coming out with the fact that the conditions that they're being placed in is not up to standard. There's a lot of news that's coming out from this. So, people organize a rally, but apparently, during the rally, the police arrest another police officer. So taxpayer money well spent. I mean, incompetence all around, I suppose. So if you want to see a police arresting another officer, here you go. Yeah. So they're saying it's like that guy has a gun.
Push him back. Back off. Creds on you? Alright, I'm gonna get the creds. Get back there.
What happened?
Back up, please.
So I love the fact that they're like, okay, are you undercover? And if I was there, I would have said, not anymore. But, there's a lot of jokes going around on the internet, a lot of memes, like people are thanking the FBI for their hard work, because without them, the rally wouldn't have been possible. So you get to see this almost in every country. Like, I saw it in Romania during protests that usually go violent. It's like the cops arrest one of their own. My favorite part was in Romania. There was a couple of police officers that started beating someone, like at a rally. Like, they get a person from the crowd that they're beating him, and one of them says, "Holy shit, you're beating up the commissioner." Right? So the cops were beating up their boss. The boss was in civilian clothing in the protest, infiltrating it, and the cops managed to pull him out, and they started beating him. Well, in Romania, we don't really say beating people, because, it doesn't sound safe. It doesn't sound healthy. We say apply a correction. Apply a correction is a very good thing. It's like when your television, if you used to have one of those old TVs, you probably know what I mean. At one point, the image would start to flicker, so you would apply a correction on the television. You would smash your fist on top of the television, and then all of a sudden, the image would be good again, right? So you corrected the problem. And communists would also say this when it came about educating children, or I think like that's actually where it came from. It's like you're correcting the child. Okay, the child is misbehaving, so you're correcting him, and this is what the cops also did in socialism to people, right? Like, the people are being led astray, so you're applying a correction in order to get them to be on the proper path. Like fixing a dog. Yes, it's the same like Americans say when they castrate an animal. It's like, we're fixing it, right? Like, there's something broken with the animal because it has testicles, so you're fixing it. You're not mutilating the animal. No, you're fixing it. And it's a way to use language in order to make it sound more palatable for people. But my favorite thing is like there was and I'll have to make a different video about it. But now that the people from the January 6th are getting charged, and they're getting like 1 month, 3 months, like they got a guy, the one who placed his feet on Nancy Pelosi's desk. Apparently, he should have got it like 3 months or so. So the prosecutors like worked really hard in order to increase his sentence, and they found out that he also took 1 bottle of beer from the refrigerator of Nancy. Let me see if I can find it. So here you go. It's on CNN, and it's the January 6th rioter who took beer from Pelosi's office pleads guilty. So they're trying their best in order to get their cases to look as hyped up as the mainstream media wants them to look. Now, look, the mainstream media can selectively talk about whatever they want to talk about, but at a trial, things aren't like that. At a trial, you need evidence, and it's individual punishment. They don't apply collective guilt to every single person. So unless the person actually broke a window, unless the person actually did something, like threatened someone or, opened fire or whatever, then you can't charge him for that. Because in a Western system, you have individual guilt. Every person is responsible for their own crime. You can't be responsible for what other people do. And now it's shocking for a lot of leftists because they're thinking that the justice system is corrupt because they're getting way too less sentences, right? They're getting too small sentences. And the prosecutors are trying everything. It's like, okay, this guy took a beer bottle from Nancy's fridge. So because of that, like notice the fact, this is from CNN, right? They're not accused of any violent activity, right? Because they don't have any image, any footage of this guy breaking a window or anything. He just walked in and sat on the chair of Nancy Pelosi. But it's still a crime, all right? Like, he's still breaking an entry. They can still charge him with, I don't know what they did, like probably civil unrest or something. But they can't charge him with anything violent, right? Like, he didn't beat anyone. He didn't attack or assault anyone. So it's like, what do you want to charge him with? So because of that, he's getting 6 months. Leftists are shocked and bewildered. They're Pikachu-faced because they don't understand how the justice system works. And they blame the judges. So as part of his plea, apparently, he took a beer out of a mini refrigerator that was located inside of the conference room. By the way, can you guess? Like, chat. Can you guess what beer Nancy Pelosi is drinking? Let's see if the chat can guess the brand. Let's do it a little bit more interactive. What beer do you guys think Nancy Pelosi is drinking? What beer do you think it's in her fridge? Let's see if the chat can figure it out, because this was a tough question. What beer is Nancy Pelosi drinking? No, it was beer. Chuk. I don't think that it's Chuk in Romania. Sorry, Chuk in the United States. Okay, some people are very close. But yes, it's a Corona beer, but not just any Corona. It's Corona Light. It's the vaccinated Corona. There you go. That's what Nancy Pelosi is drinking. She is drinking the vaccinated Corona. The crime of illegally demonstrating. But by the way, like, aren't the Democrats about sharing the wealth? Like, you would think Nancy Pelosi would go there and says that she drops the charges. Like, isn't this like sharing the wealth? It's still the taxpayer money's being mostly peaceful is more heady for Pelosi. It's like, look, like, this man is probably less privileged than she is. Like, he is less wealthy. It's like, okay, he took a beer. All right. His sentence will be handed down. Yes. 75 have pleaded guilty. Well, I'm pretty sure that they pleaded guilty, considering that, like, if they were being sentenced with 65 years in prison, I don't think they would have pleaded guilty. Just saying. They would have took their chance and go to trial, but... Alright, now let's talk a little bit about optics. The optics. So apparently there's too many immigrants coming in the United States. The UN said you can't deport them because apparently, surprisingly, the Biden administration actually deports some of them for health safety, right? So under some article, you can actually deport them if they're testing positive. And the UN is like, no, you can't do that. You can't, violation of international law. What do you think would happen if you send all the refugees at the UN? Like put them in the UN building, all of them. All of a sudden, anyway, you know, like I'm just saying, it's very easy to talk about politics, but you don't get to live there. So apparently, the hated migrants at the border. The Biden administration is seeking a private contractor to operate a migrant detention facility at Guantanamo Bay. Of course, leftists are doing damage control. It's not detention, it's resettlement. They can leave anytime they want. It's not for immigrants, it's an authorization. Yeah, we get it. It looks bad, dude. You know, the kids in cages shit, that look awful, didn't it? How about putting them to Guantanamo? So kids in cages, awful, bad optics. Putting them in Guantanamo, progressive as fuck. Oh my god, that is the future, isn't it? You know, come to America, visit nice places, I guess. Now, someone said, I would love to see that. You're never going to see that. I will tell you why you won't get to see that. Apparently, new drone banned from filming immigrants under Texas bridge after mass border crossing by thousands of Haitians. They don't even justify it. It's like, it's not safe to fly the drone. I guess maybe it's because of Corona. You know, you fly the drone over people that are untested, and you might get the virus when the drone lands. I have no idea. I'm just trying to figure it out. But yeah, and by the way, like this idea of not allowing drones to fly. Victoria Police ban media live streaming aerial footage from Melbourne protests. I mean, how can you have the mainstream media show you that there's only 5 people at the protests or completely do a radio silence if people can just fly a drone and you can see it? And by the way, the same shit is also in Romania. Like, when there's massive protests, they don't allow drones to fly. I mean, this is a 100% tactic. It's like, when you see that drones aren't being allowed to fly, you know that shit is going down. Like, something bad is happening that you're not supposed to hear about it. And this is like, and by the way, like, this is not happening in China. This is not happening in North Korea. No, it's democratic nations. By the way, the Hayton whipping, fake news. I don't have it here, but apparently, like, the guy who took the picture says that there was no whipping. And like, you need to use your brain for a little bit. Like, try to filter the information. All right, we don't live in the 50s. It's not like the people that are working for ICE are completely detached from culture, and they just don't understand what the consequences of doing something like that would be like. I mean, if you even touch a single hair out of an immigrant's head, your job is done. Like, your career is over. We live in the age of social media. Anything bad that you do is going to appear online, and you're not just going to be fired. You're never going to get a job again. You might even create a scandal that can land you in prison. The idea that, like, the people working at the detention centers are just whipping refugees, to me, it's bewildering. But, like, how can people just believe the story from day one? Just allow a couple more days to pass so that you can see what the story is really about. Like, maybe something else has happened. At this point, do you have any arguments against China? Everything you complain about is already happening here. Man, it's like going to a bathtub, right? And you open the water, and it's freezing cold. Like, we're talking about water that's 1 degree temperature. And you're like, dude, I can't take a bath like this. It's way too cold. I mean, the water is horrible. I can't take a bath there. And you're like, okay. So now you switch the water, and it's boiling hot. I mean, steam is coming out. You're like, dude, now the water is too hot. Why do you keep complaining? What the fuck do you want? You had cold water, you didn't want it. Now you have hot water, you don't want to. Why can't you pick and choose? Like, this is the same people that go, it's like, oh, why not China? Why not China? Why not a place where, I don't know, for example, if you get run over by, if you follow the street, cars keep running you over. Like, this is something that you get to see in a lot of YouTube videos. You go and see things in China, like some old lady gets hit by a car, and then car after car after car runs her over. Why is that? It's because of the legislation. If you run someone over with a car in China, you then have to pay for their entire hospital bill for the rest of their life. So people don't want to risk that. They would rather be sent to prison. How can you live in a country like that? You get to see people in China being abducted from the street, like a mother with a kid. And then you see some guy just taking the kid away from the mother's arms. I mean, it's such shocking images. And it's like, oh yes, well, China is based. No, it's not. Keep up the good work, V. Watch your stuff every day. Buy your kittens something nice. I have managed to put all of my kittens up for adoption. Right now, I am kittenless. Thank you, Yur. Appreciate it. The reason that I don't like the current system, by the way, is because of the authoritarian control that the governments are exposing. And I think China is even worse when it comes about controlling people. I mean, you're not even allowed to go on YouTube or Google. You're not allowed to talk freely. Parts of your history, like for example, the Tiananmen Square, if you talk about it, you can get arrested. You can get the person. Like, no, why the fuck would I want China? Jesus Christ, man. Hey, if you like it so much, you can live there, Tactical Droid. I mean, you're free to immigrate. I mean, it is possible if you have a good skill that they need. I mean, if you're good in computers, you can go to China. But I don't think a lot of people will make this decision because it's not a good place to live in. So anyway, Australia, which is becoming more and more like a mental illness. I mean, even the left-leaning Atlantic, which is a communist paper. I mean, it's not a communist that I'm shaming them. It's a communist that they advocate themselves as communists. They're saying that they're concerned about the liberties in Australia, and there are no liberties. I will probably show you tomorrow. Can't show you today because I'm trying to keep this video monetized. But you have police officers choking women, beating people, shooting people. And it's not like they're shooting people who are attacking them. No, like the people are running away and the police officers are shooting them in the back. Police officers going to people's houses, asking them if they feel like criticizing the government today. Like even like if you're on social media and you talk about the protest, you can get arrested by the cops. Now, on top of that, you can't fly drones. I mean, it keeps going and going and going. And I think it was like yesterday that the politician, like the prime minister in Australia, said that things are never going back to normal. Like this is here to stay. They're never going back to the way things are, right? So you can understand why some people are now skeptical of the government. It has nothing to do with COVID and safety. In an alternative universe in Australia, the virus is going on a podium and is addressing the people how it plans to help them get rid of the government. You know, get rid of the oppressions that the government is doing. Like the virus, like people are more willing to listen to what the virus has to say about how to help them end the government oppression than they are on the government on how to end the virus. It's kind of like that, I guess. It's like 3/4 China. I don't see the difference. Like, if you're in Australia, I would agree with Tactical Droid. In Australia, you could probably go to China and you'd have more freedoms at this point. So it's the only solution where Tactical Droid can convince me. Holy shit, thank you, Nate. Appreciate your content. I'd be interested to hear what you think about the idea of US truckers everywhere, us truckers everywhere, or maybe just here in the United States, just stopping and parking at the same time where we are on the road for 10-15 minutes, say the governments can smoke the poke. So I already addressed the trucker shortage. For example, in California now, it's not just that they're forcing truckers to get the vaccine, because like that's fine if you think about it, because like if you're a trucker and you get the vaccine, then you can get more money by doing the job, because now there's a shortage. But in California, it's more like the global warming that's a problem, because as I understand it, you need to have a fresh truck. Like you can't have a truck that's for 10 years ago. You need to have one that's 2-3 years old in order to fit the pollution regulations. And most of these trucks are also very expensive to fix because they have onboard computers and you can't just take them to a random service and fix them. So it's like a whole series of regulations and legislations that just makes it difficult to be a trucker. And it's getting to the point where, as I understand, if you have your own truck, like if you manage to get your own truck, you can make $8,000 a week. Now, $8,000 sounds good money until you realize it's like, holy shit, I need to work 11, 12 hours a day in order to make that. And on top of it, you probably bought a new truck, right? So you probably bought one of these low pollution trucks that they expect you to have. And now you have to pay the loan for it. So yeah, sure, you can make $8,000, but you have to pay the loan for the truck that you bought, which is probably very expensive. And on top of that, you also have to pay various licenses and fees and regulations, and it's not really that easy. But what's also interesting is that there was a governor, I think the one in New York, who said that, so people don't want to do the job anymore? Like they don't want to be nurses, they don't want to be truckers? That's okay, we can replace you. I mean, he literally said that. It's like, oh, if you don't get the vaccine, you're going to be fired. And if you choose to be fired, we can replace you. Like, we're just going to get foreigners to do the job. And I'm thinking, yeah, but can we also not get foreigners to replace you, the politician? Like, can we not get foreigners into office if that's the case? Why are the politicians the only one that don't require diversity? Why shouldn't a foreigner become a politician then, if that's really the case? I mean, it's the most disrespectful thing that you can say to the people. It's like, even if you're vaccinated and you get your passport and you hear the politicians say, oh, if someone doesn't want it, we can replace it. The question is like, so how long until the government issues a different mandate that I don't like, and then they can replace me as well? It's mindfuck. Like, the fact that a politician thinks this is okay to say clearly shows that he doesn't fear the people can replace him. It clearly shows that the system is starting to become broken. If a politician is only afraid of the people once every 4 years when there's elections and then they can sleep, and there's absolutely no consequences regardless of the bad decisions they're making or the things that they're saying, maybe it's the system requires a little bit of reviewing, is what I'm saying. So anyway, you have one of the biggest unions in Australia, which is the construction union. Now, the leader of the construction union, the union boss, for the first time in human history that I know, is like he's got the workers en masse, so not a couple of workers, but all of them turning on him. And because of that, he calls his workers, okay, he calls the people that turned on him, drunken fascists, un-Australian morons, are the reason construction workers will be sitting at home and not getting paid for the next 2 weeks. So again, you get on every single level, the people in charge, not just showing disrespect, but showing disgust for the people under them. I don't know what to say. These are the actions of extremists or people manipulated by extremists. So if you, again, like these people, they're not saying they don't want to get vaccinated. In fact, like some of them already are vaccinated. But what they're saying is that they're not okay with the government enforcing this shit, and they're not okay with the state police that is happening. So now, if you look at Australia, what's happening is any person that even looks remotely like a worker gets harassed by the cops on the street. I mean, you can't call Australia a democracy. I'm sorry. You know, like people in European Union, they looked at Hungary and they started criticizing Hungary. But no one talks about Australia. There's literally zero international pressure. I'm telling you, if, let's say in Australia you'd have had elections and a Bolsonaro-like figure would have won the elections and he would have done all of this shit, there would have been massive international pressure to get him to stop. But for some reason, all of this is fine. And every day you get to see things more and more egregious. You get to look at the things and you're like, holy crap, like how is this allowed to happen? Like why is the United Nations speaking out? And then you look at it and you do a little bit of research and you find out, oh, the United Nations actually sent cops to Australia. Isn't that interesting? Let me show you. So the United Nations oversees Policing Association of Australia. Isn't that fascinating? So people who don't live there get to make decisions for the people that live there. I'm just... It's very easy to explain why this is a bad idea. The reason you don't see often cops in Romania mistreating citizens is because the cops also happen to live in the same place where the citizens live. And they have children that go to school. So cops are less likely to be tyrannical when they live in the same community that they're policing. But when you bring people from outside of the community that don't get to live there, that's when you see the worst abuses. Like if you look in Spain and the Catalonian situation, and I'm not going into the ideology of the Catalonians, I'm not going to discuss this on this stream, but you had police show a level of brutality that was rarely seen in Europe in recent times. And the reason for that was that the police came from Spain. They came from a different place. So they didn't really care about the people there. And that's why they were brutal. But when it's in their own communities, when they happen to know the people there, well, it's a different thing, right? This is why a lot of sheriffs in the United States didn't want to enforce the mandates, that some of them were actually viewed unconstitutional in many places in Europe, and I think even in the US, like some of the mandates were deemed unconstitutional. And they didn't want to enforce them. Why? Because the sheriffs, they expect people to actually vote for them next election. So they also expect to live in those communities. So they were like, okay, we're not enforcing this. And honestly, like I genuinely think the American system where you, with the sheriffs, where you actually go to vote for the commissioner, I think that is the best system. I think in a democratic system, people should vote for more than their politicians. I think like the bureaucrats and everyone like that, like wherever you can vote for something, it should be voted on. I think people should vote for prosecutors. I think people should vote for judges. You know, like the idea of the Supreme Court, I think people should vote on the judges. I think the president should nominate like 3 or 4 judges and people should vote for them. I think that would be a lot better. But, you know, it is what it is. Never trust the blue helmets. I mean, yeah, like the thing with the United Nations, it's like you have this institution that isn't affected if Australia goes poorly or not. And yet they get to make decisions for Australia. It's the root cause of most problems in politics today. I just don't understand why people are okay with it. It's why nationalists are asking for more decentralization. Like, decentralization is good because the people in the community, they know the problems of that community. The people that are sitting away from the community don't care. Like let me put it this way, right? There's even a saying, it's a recession when your neighbor loses his job. It's a depression when you lose your job, because a lot of people are affected when stuff is happening to them. So in other words, let's say I live in a city and I hear on the news that in another city there's trash on the streets. I'm not going to care, right? Meh. But then you hear that, okay, there's trash in your city. Well, then you start to care a little bit, because maybe you're passing by it and you don't like the smell. But then you hear the news, it's like there's trash at your neighbor's apartment. Well, now you care a lot, because now like you're worrying. It's like, okay, what if the cockroaches or the vermin that are being attracted by the trash come to my place? It's like, that's not good. Now imagine the trash is in your home, right? Well, if the trash is in your home, you're probably going to get up and pick it up and throw it away. Like, that's what I'm trying to say. It's like the closer the problem is to you, the more people care. Like this idea that empathy without borders exists, that people give a shit about stuff that's far away from them. You know, sometimes they do, but like more often than they don't. Like, let me give you an example, right? Let's say that I read in the news that there's a serial killer in the United States. Of course, you know, I'll be like, oh my God, I know people from the US. Well, hold on. There's a serial killer in Africa. I'll be like, okay, you know, that's interesting. And I mean, it's not good, but okay. Then I hear there's a serial killer in the United States. I'll be like, well, I actually know people in the US. I hope they're fine. You know, I start to care a little bit more. Then I hear there's a serial killer in Romania. Then I start to worry. I go like, okay, but why aren't the authorities doing anything? Like, are the authorities incompetent? Is this a bad thing, right? But then you hear there's a serial killer in your town. Well, now you're worried, right? Like now you're genuinely concerned about the issue. It's like it's in your town. Now imagine you hear there's a serial killer in your neighborhood. Well, now you're going to tell your girlfriend or your wife or whatever. It's like, hey, I'm going to come with you. Like, don't walk alone on night. You know, let's take a cab wherever we're going. Let's figure it out. Like, let's talk with some friends so that we're always walking out together and blah blah blah, right? Because that's how life works. So people care about their communities more than they care about other communities. So why should people from different communities legislate and make decisions that affect the life of people that they don't know and they don't live in? Then you find out your wife is the serial killer. You find out that your wife is Camille. Yeah. So I'm just giving you an example, but obviously, you know, like you're not going to be able to have maximum decentralization, but the current trend of the world is, instead of decentralizing, is centralizing. So instead of giving more power to the people, you're giving less power to the people. And I think that's why a lot of problems are happening. But anyway, right, I'll stop it here. Thank you guys for watching this. I really appreciate it. Thank you for the donations. I'll do it tomorrow with the articles that are left, because we got a lot of things to go through. And hopefully this was an enjoying stream. Again, tomorrow after I upload the video on my main channel, I'll be live streaming again. I'll not delete this live stream because maybe that's why I'm starting to get less views. I delete them way too often, so it's going to be on at least BitChute live stream, and I'll see you guys there. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it, and have a good evening.